All right, y'all, we back with another reaction right here on ABP Reactions. And right now, the autopsy has came out in the David and Celeste case, man, and they say it's horrifying. Let's get the details.
Breaking news, the autopsy report for Celeste Rivas Hernandez in the David murder investigation has just been released. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Okay, so thanks for joining us here on this breaking Sidebar. As I mentioned right here, this is what we've been waiting for in the David investigation, in the Celeste Rivas death investigation. This is the coroner's report. So it just came in, right? So after David was arrested, after he has been charged with the death of, charged with the murder of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, this is what we've been waiting for. The cause of death, this has been sealed for months, and this is providing a lot of details. I'm going to tell you right now, it is very difficult to read through this. It is gruesome, but this is going to be a key point for both the prosecution and the defense. We know that Celeste's body, the body of this 14-year-old girl, was found in the trunk of a Tesla that was allegedly registered to David in Los Angeles back on September 8th, 2025. And again, this is going to be a key factor in this prosecution as he faces not only first-degree murder charges, because they're highlighting special circumstances here, lying in wait, financial gain, that she was a witness to a crime, but he's also facing sex crimes charges and mutilation of human remains. So I want to go through this. I want to bring on a special guest. I'm not going to do it by myself. I want to make sense of this. I'm bringing on Mary Jambelic, a former forensic pathologist and former chief medical examiner, to go through this. Mary, thank you so much for taking the time. Before we even get started into the details, I would be remiss if I didn't just start with the statement from the County of Los Angeles medical examiner. I'm going to read it verbatim. The County of Los Angeles Department of Medical Examiner determined the cause and manner of death for 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez as multiple penetrating injuries caused by objects. The manner of death is homicide. Ms. Rivas Hernandez was discovered at 1100 hours on September 8th, 2025 in the front trunk of a vehicle in a tow yard in Los Angeles, and death was pronounced by a detective with the LAPD. A deputy medical examiner conducted an examination of Ms. Rivas Hernandez on September 10th, 2025 at the DME's Forensic Science Center. The cause and manner of death were determined December 9th, 2025. A court order initiated by the LAPD previously prevented the DME from releasing its findings. And this is the statement of Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Ode Ukpo. After several months, I am grateful this information can now be released not only to the public, but also to the grieving family enduring loss. It is unfathomable they have had to wait this long to learn what happened to their daughter.
Right.
The transparency of the information contained in our findings and reports is essential for empowering the community to make informed changes, to effectively reduce fear and allowing the community to take informed action. Making the department's information publicly available is not just about accountability, it is also about social justice and prevention. By ensuring access to this information, we strengthen our ability to learn, to act, and ultimately to prevent the next tragic loss of life. I want to extend my gratitude to our partner agencies for taking the necessary step of filing an order with the court to make this disclosure possible. Mary, I'll first start there. It's not every day you hear a statement like this from a chief medical examiner. Let's start right there.
So they knew in December what happened, but they had to wait to April to tell the family, and they found her body in September. Damn, that's crazy. I know the family like, what the fuck is going on? We all been like, what the fuck is going on?
True. Sometimes we don't want to release the cause, the specifics about the cause of death in an active investigation, because perhaps it's information that only the killer would know. And so that's understandable that that might be obscured initially. But I think what the chief medical examiner in LA is saying is that they had this information, they wanted to release this information, and they were thwarted in doing so.
And when you hear, so I'm reading from it, right? So the date of the injury, they say, is unknown. The place of the injury is unknown. Pronounced date, time, September 8th, 2025, 11 a.m. Date of examination, September 10th, 2025. And it was completed, right? So December 9th, 2025. Is that time span typical?
I think from September to December, that's reasonable because they're awaiting certain specialty ancillary tests, such as toxicologic examination. And it's much harder to do on a decomposing body than if it were fresh deceased. So the fact that that takes a couple months to get that information, so that that's part of the whole picture of, you know, what happened to this poor teenager, that's reasonable.
And just to be clear, as we talk about this, David is innocent until proven guilty, and his defense attorneys have said that he did not murder Celeste and he is not the cause of her death. So I want to go through the specifics right now. Again, it is not easy to hear this, but this is going to be important part of the legal case. So her cause of death has been ruled multiple penetrating injuries. Her death has been classified as a homicide. I'm going to read verbatim. And by the way, they put diagrams in here as well, but 2 penetrating wounds of the torso, right abdomen with injury to liver, left chest with penetration of underlying intercostal space and cortical disruption of adjacent ribs.
Damn.
Other findings, bilateral dismemberment of upper and lower extremities, multiple additional skin defects.
What?
Death was pronounced at the scene. Autopsy examination was limited by extensive post-mortem changes. And by the way, this is something to keep in mind because you're talking about dismemberment and decomposition. There are 2 penetrating wounds of the torso with smooth edges that may represent sharp force injuries.
Like a knife or a sword?
The wound on the upper abdomen penetrates the liver, and the wound on the left chest penetrates one of the left intercostal spaces with disruption of the adjacent ribs' cortical surfaces. The left lung appears intact. The bilateral upper and lower extremities show full thickness dismemberment.
Oh.
Multiple other skin and soft tissue defects are present without apparent associated internal injuries. The etiology of these defects is not clearly apparent due to severe postmortem changes. Postmortem toxicology performed on liver tissue shows the presence of a low level of ethanol, which may be due in postmortem changes or ingestion, and does not appear to be contributory to the cause of death. Let's start right there. What does this mean, and what does this tell you, and what are there still questions about?
Well, the body sounds like it's in a state of postmortem decomposition with some loss of integrity of the skin surface and some bloating and skin slippage, etc. But despite that, the medical examiner was able to identify 2 wounds that penetrated, meaning they went into the body, significantly into the liver, which would bleed a lot, and significantly into the lung, the space around the lung, which also would cause a problem with air and blood accumulating there. And
it would sound like somebody knew exactly where to stab her at, or to use the sword, like knew to stab her right there, knew that those 2 places. This is interesting. What the fuck?
if it were a freshly deceased person, perhaps the edges of the wounds would tell you the weapon much more clearly, but it's more difficult in a decomposing body. But they are trying to generally describe the wounds and the shape without saying it's absolutely a knife that did this.
And to be clear, I'm glad you mentioned that, because earlier in the week...
It sounds like a knife. It sounds like a knife for sure. A nigga stabbed her twice. So this was personal, brother. David, what the fuck, man? You fucking freak. Bro, your team over here talking about it ain't you. Who the fuck, brother? You better speak up. This is a moment where you better speak up and say who the fuck it could be then. Because who the fuck could it be? Who the fuck could it be? Make this make sense. It makes absolutely no sense how you're not guilty. Unless you covered for somebody else. I don't get it. Let's keep watching.
When they talked about the charges and the special circumstances, it was very specific, a sharp instrument they claim was used. They didn't say it was a knife or an axe or something. They were just said it was kind of specific. This was something that was picked up on by TMZ. They believe defense attorneys would jump on this. There are 2 penetrating wounds of the torso with smooth edges that may represent sharp force injuries. So in other words, is there room here to suggest that it was something else?
Something that was sharp enough to penetrate skin and underlying tissue and go into the liver and then into the space around the lung. Is it, what exactly is it? That's really the question. And I don't know that they'll be able to say exactly the weapon that was used.
Is there, and I'm going to go through this more. I don't want to ask this question. I have to ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything in here to indicate that she was alive at the time of dismemberment?
Not from what the medical examiner described. It sounds like classic amputating the body to try to compact it, to hide it, to dispose of it. I've seen that.
So this is basically what I'm getting from this is he stabbed her, boom, boom, and then she bled out. She bled to death. They didn't say nothing about strangulation, so he didn't choke her, kill her like that way. They just said she bled out. So he had to wait for her to bleed out, die, then dismember her, try to hide the body. What the fuck? Sicko.
In a number of homicide cases, so nothing that suggests that these amputations occurred while she was alive.
When you go to other parts of the report, they talk about tattoos, and they say description that she had a tattoo on the finger. This is something that we've talked about before. That seemed to be the identifier, one of the ways that they identified her as Celeste.
The same tattoo as him. They had matching tattoos on their fingers that said, shh, like Rihanna.
But when you go to other parts of it, other parts of her body, including eye color, cannot assess due to severe postmortem changes. Is that decomposition? Is that dismemberment? So I guess it becomes a question, how significant is that to determine what exactly happened to her, and how much does that complicate this analysis?
Well, forensic pathologists are skilled at identifying wounds and trauma in all manner of body composition. So all the way from the freshly deceased to the skeletonized to the exhumed body. Taking all of that with the education and experience of the Los Angeles Medical Examiner's Office, they're familiar with the interpretation of wounding in a body and seeing it at this decomposition level. So yes, of course it makes it harder. You have to really call on your knowledge base to interpret the wounds. The eyes being collapsed after death is normal. They lose their turgor. They don't, they're not the same shape. So not being able to see her eye color, that's a completely normal thing in a decomposition like this.
Her weight was 71 pounds.
That's sad, bro. Like, imagine, I can only imagine, the parents and family having to hear this, and this shit is being, this is a high profile, man. This is on they're talking about this everywhere, bro. And it's your family member, your daughter, you got to hear this shit, like how she was found, how she was dismembered. 71 pounds. God damn.
Is that...
Well, you lose a lot of weight also, in this sort of death decomposition process. So that's not reliable as to what her ante-mortem weight was.
I want to go to skin defects. Multiple skin defects are also present over the torso, with many perforating the skin and soft tissue without identifiable soft tissue hemorrhage or associated internal organ injuries. They range from 5/16 inch to 1/4 inches in greatest dimension. Multiple superficial linear abrasions are also noted on the right dorsal hand. The upper and lower extremities show full thickness dismemberment with relatively flat cut surfaces through the soft tissue and bone. No discernible hemorrhage is identified at these sites. Multiple fragments of blue plastic material are found embedded in the cut surfaces.
Blue plastic material.
Representative fragments are collected by medical examiner criminalists and submitted to the evidence department on September 8th, 2025. The right upper extremity is dismembered 9 inches from the top of the shoulder. The left upper extremity is dismembered 5 inches from the top of the shoulder. The left 4th and 5th fingers are amputated.
What? amputated the fingers.
Right lower extremity is dismembered in 2 places. One site is 12 inches from the top of the leg, and the other is 10 inches from the bottom of the heel. The left lower extremity is dismembered in 2 places.
Wow.
One site is 9 inches from the top of the leg, and the other is 15 inches from the bottom of the heel.
Nigga, that is crazy. Chopped her up. Oh, you niggas, boy, they got a cold place in hell for you motherfuckers. Do y'all think one person did this, though? Because there is a theory that 2 people, he had to have help, or whoever, it was 2 people. Do y'all think one person executed all that, and that one person being David? Cut up her body into all these pieces and carried the body out to the trunk of his own car and just left it in the trunk of his own car. Y'all feel like he did all that by himself? That's interesting. What the fuck? Rest in peace to Celeste, man.
It says the head is partially skeletonized with an absent left eye.
What?
And there is liquefaction of the soft tissues. What does this tell you about
absent left eye.
how she was dismembered?
Well, it's important in dismemberment to look at the edges of the wounds.
Where's her eye at?
So any tool marks, any particular saw that might have been used to do this. The fact that there are these blue flecks give you some clue. If you're able to then locate something that was used in the process. And
Something
just
with
doing
blue on
the careful tool mark analysis on the ends of the bones in all of the amputations, the fact that everything is together there in the there's the body bag, and then there's the trash bag with the limbs in it. They weren't discarded in different places. So you have a lot of material to work on to try to figure out what was used to cut through the limbs.
What amount of effort or tools would be needed to do something like this? And based on the description, I hate to say this, is this someone you would suggest is sloppy, that has never done this before? Does it look disoriented in a way? Just trying to make sense of it.
You know, it's interesting
Good
because
question.
many people, when they try to dismember a body, they'll try to go for the joint. Somehow they think that's a good place to go, when that's a really complicated place to disarticulate a limb. And so the fact that they didn't go for the joint says something about their logic.
Now, this is instantly raises the question, like, if this is your first time, you for sure would be one of them goofies. Either you're going to do this shit on the fly and just assume this is how you cut a body up, or 9 times out of 10, like we see in all the reaction videos, you're going to be one of those guys who Google searches how to dismember a body, or how to get rid of a body, how to cut up a body, what parts to cut up on a body. You know what I mean? So I wonder if they found anything like that. Because you know, in these cases, like crazy cases, they always find that the person went and Google searched it somewhere to figure it out. Because if you never killed somebody before, then you kill somebody and then you go to the extreme of wanting to chop them up in pieces, you wouldn't know where to begin. You wouldn't know where to begin. Like, average motherfucker for sure. Like, what? Where am I cutting? I don't know where to cut. So that's where it would either A, you're going to get some help from somebody who does know, or B, you're going to search somewhere, you're going to search to find those answers. Or you're going to be watching videos, or you have watched videos in the past to where you now have the knowledge to where you felt like, I want to proceed. If you're a psycho, you watched enough videos to where you have the knowledge in your head, and now you're itching to try it out on somebody, and then you finally execute it. You know, I don't know. It's crazy.
They were making cuts, presumably to be able to confine her and fit her into a certain amount of space. Yeah. And so they not only cut the legs in one place, they cut them in 2 places, you know, to fit them in. Right. I think beyond that, you can just say someone's trying to hide the body. They are doing their best to compact the body to hide it, but they left it all there. So
that's what makes no sense. Like you did all that. Listen to what they did now that we know the details of the autopsy. They made sure they chopped it as small as possible to hide it and get it in this bag or whatever, only to leave the bag visible in a like somewhere easy to discover the body in the trunk of your own car. So that's what makes no sense to me. Like you went out your way to make sure that you could hide the body and cut it up small enough to where you could get these pieces and stuff them, only to say, I'm gonna put it in the trunk of the car and leave it here. That's the only part that made me scratch my head. Like, why would you put it in the trunk of your car and just leave it there for a month? Like the average motherfucker who would kill somebody and do all that dismemberment, you're gonna go toss the body somewhere, nigga, bury the body somewhere, burn the body. You're gonna go do something. You're not gonna put it in the trunk of your own car and just leave it there. Have we seen that? Like, that's one thing we haven't ran across. Somebody cut their wife's body up and just put it in the trunk of the car and left it there for a month. That makes no sense. I don't get it. What was he? I don't know.
I can't really psychologically analyze that part.
How is an eye missing? Is that from decomposition?
Well, it's not really missing as much as it's all gone away. I believe there was mention also in the report of insect activity.
Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit?
They don't go into great detail about it or about how many generations of insects are there, but it's usually fly activity that we refer to, and adult flies lay eggs in moist places on the body, and then those eggs start to grow and become maggots, and then they keep getting bigger, and then they pupate into the next generation, etc., so forth. So they can do a lot of destruction because they're scavengers, if you will. So they will eat dead tissue, necrotic tissue, and just digest it and eat it, in there, and that's what they do. So many times they will go for the soft parts of the eye and other soft areas.
And does that tell you how long the body has been decomposing, and does it actually relate to a particular location? Is there specific insects that inhabit a certain location, or you could say perhaps there's evidence of those insects being in a certain location?
This nigga Jesse Weber is asking some great fucking questions, man. Because, damn, he's asking all this shit we need to know. Like, he's asking all the shit.
Yeah, I think that, the entomologists that do this work specifically, the forensic folks, they collect the maggots, they look at them, they see if there's pupa casings there, if any other material from the flies are there, to try to date it. That could give important information.
The
female reproductive tract. Okay, this is page 9. Uterus present and not enlarged and without endometrial lesions and hemorrhage. Ovaries and fallopian tubes appropriate for age. Other private areas without lesions. Now, it says other female reproductive tract findings, severe postmortem changes noted. This I just want to highlight because one of the allegations, right, has been put forward is, that David was allegedly engaging in illegal sex acts with a minor, right, with presumably Celeste. And I know that there was at one point a question of, was she pregnant or not? There's nothing to indicate this. Is there something about this particular section that stands out to you?
No, the report indicates the uterus was normal, so it wasn't enlarged as it would be in pregnancy. There wasn't anything seen on the inner lining of the uterus that would be seen in pregnancy. The external genitalia, the description is of decomposed tissue. So whether there was forceful penetration there, because of the advanced state of the decomposition, it wouldn't be seen.
I just want to go back to the skin defects. This is a part that we didn't talk about, or maybe we did. I just need to know if this provides any more information. Skin defect, 3/4 inch. Entrance involving the right abdomen, 21 inches below the top of the head. 1 inch right of midline is a 3/4 inch length penetrating wound with smooth edges. The wound is orientated in the 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock directions. Path, the wound tract sequentially perforates the skin and soft tissue of the right abdomen and the liver. The wound track is an
The
approximate
3 o'clock and a 9 o'clock. Damn.
death of 1.5 inches
this is crazy.
front to back. The skin defect involving the lateral left lower chest, 15 inches below the top of the head. 6 inches left of midline is a 9/16 inch penetrating wound with smooth edges. Path, the wound track sequentially perforates the skin and soft tissue of the lateral left lower chest, left intercostal space, and enters the left chest cavity. The wound track has a depth of at least 2 inches left to right. The adjacent ribs show disruption of the cortical bone. Is this anything that we haven't?
I mean, those are the serious fatal wounds that are described by the medical examiner.
What the fuck?
As I said, going into the body cavity and hitting the liver, which would bleed extensively, and then hitting.
This is definitely somebody that knew where to stab her, that knew where the 2 points, because I only stabbed twice, and in the right points that where you could kill somebody, you knew what you was doing. And then does that play along, like they say that he lured her to the house, wherever she was. Obviously, she wasn't at the house. This is the information they clearly know because they're saying she was lured to the house. So if they're saying that, they must know she wasn't there and he told her to come over. Basically set her up to hide what they are saying is the motive of her going to out him for dealing with her. And they just debunked the pregnant theory. So she wasn't pregnant. So she was going to out him is what they're saying. Who all knew about this? That is the question they're not saying all the people that knew. Who was all in on this shit? Because she was with him for 1.5 years, gone, missing from her house. Who all knew about their dealings and what they was going with it? Who was condoning this shit and allowing it? Crazy.
The pleural cavity on the left, causing air and blood to fill up that space. Again, seeing the blood and seeing the air is not possible this many days of decomposition, but the wounds are there and they mark the track of the penetrating weapon. The fact that there's injury on the ribs themselves might be analyzed for a specific weapon as well. The markings on the ribs.
TMZ reported this. I believe to be in here as well, the toxicology findings, right? So it says there was I believe a presumptive positive for methamphetamine and MDMA, but then apparently there was another screening that says meth was inconclusive, MDMA was not detected, that Celeste may have had alcohol in her system, didn't contribute to her death. I think we touched upon that before.
Right.
If you're reading the same thing, correct me if I'm wrong, but what does that tell you?
Well, just referring to the toxicology screening, you can screen for drugs and there can be interfering substances that might look like it's positive for a drug. And then when you do the in-depth analysis to confirm if that's present or not present, that's the more definitive test. So the not detected results after the screening is more relevant, that she didn't have that in her system. The alcohol, you can form alcohol, ethanol, after death in the decomposition process. And so having some there in a decomposed body is not indicative of imbibing the alcohol.
And just one more thing I want to touch upon. This is towards the end, just goes into more of the report, how when her body was found, she was wearing a tube top, underwear, leggings, and socks. I observed multiple holes in the front and back of the tube top. She was missing both arms above the elbows and both legs above the knees.
What? God damn. Cut both. These motherfuckers is wow. What the fuck? 2 people or 1 person, y'all? That is a sick nigga. Killed her and then cut her body up. Both arms, both legs, and put in a bag and left in the car. That is some sick shit.
The decedent was in an advanced state of decomposition demonstrated by foul odor, discoloration, liquefaction, insect activity, partial skeletonization, and skin slippage. Goes on at another point. She was dismembered and was inside a black body bag and black trash bag. We've known some of this before, but it's just so difficult to hear. Final thoughts on this and anything that we're missing from the report that stood out to you?
Damn.
I mean, I think the medical examiner did a thorough job, and in fact, associating the clothing with the wounds on the body is a very important part of analyzing, the penetrating wounds. So some of those additional injuries in the clothing may shed some light on the marks that can't be further identified on the body.
I wonder, like, if they can, based off they know what she last had on, if they can identify somewhere where she was last seen. You know what I mean? A girl that looked like her wearing this, walking to a gas station, maybe, walk to a liquor store, walking into something, a Walmart, a Target, with what she had, her description on that day or around that day, the week of or something. You know what I mean? I'm sure, like, there's going to come something. They might have it already. They might have it. They might,
I think determining that it's these two fatal wounds that are the primary cause of death and that it's a homicide is very important here.
Mary Jimbelik, thanks for taking the time. I know it's never easy to go through this. I know it's never easy to go through it when you're dealing with a child, but that is exactly what the situation is here. And I appreciate really coming on very quickly to break this down with me. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. You can.
All right, man. All right. Sad situation, man. That was the autopsy, man. The autopsy. Horrifying details. Crazy, man. I would hate to be like the family and the parents having to hear that. It just makes your stomach turn, knowing that she was taken in that fashion and dismembered and cut, arms cut, legs cut. Then the way she was like stabbed twice. So that seems very personal. You know what I mean? That is intentional. That is personal. You stabbed twice and you knew the right places where to stab me. You know what I'm saying? Like, who would do that? Who would want to stab her? Who would have motive to stab her? When you hear this whole trial, no other names come up. No other girls she was fighting with. No girls that be around David that may be fighting with her. No girl that was David's side girl or alleged ex-girlfriend. You haven't heard none of those stories like that. And that's rare, because usually, like, you will hear, like, a crazy ex-girlfriend or a best friend or something. Like, you will hear something. You haven't heard nothing but David. Nothing but David. And then, like, there's been signs of them saying the Asian kid, the best friend, was moving the car, all that stuff. I don't know, man. It's just like, but who would have motive to want to stab her twice, kill her, watch her leak out, and then cut her body up? But the part that just keeps fucking me up is leaving it in your own car for months. What is that about? What is that about? You know what I mean? Let me know what y'all think, though, man. Sad situation. Rest in peace to Celeste, man. We're going to stay on top of this as they put out details. We're going to react. It's going to be crazy watching this all unfold and them actually presenting the facts when it comes time to present the facts, and let's see if a lot of what you guys was thinking, what I was thinking was correct, Time will tell, man. We'll be here to react to it as they come out. I'm going to give y'all 2 seconds to smash the like, and as always, get ready for the next reaction.